2 weeks ago, the General Assembly leaders and I achieved a milestone with the signing of the state's third balanced budget in a row, virtually eliminating our bill backlog inherited from my predecessor, paying our current bills on time, meeting our full required pension payment, and saving tens of millions of dollars for taxpayers along the way. Then, 1 week ago, Illinois received its third in a series of improved credit outlooks of 2021, a testament to our responsible and restrained fiscal management, all while enduring a global pandemic. Today, we mark a third major milestone in a triumvirate of fiscal progress. The state of Illinois received its first credit upgrade in more than 20 years. Make no mistake, despite all the challenges of the last year, after 8 credit downgrades our state suffered under my predecessor, I say with full certainty Illinois' fiscal condition is heading in the right direction for the first time in the 21st century. We are truly forging a new path for our great state. I came into this office 2.5 years ago armed with a promise to govern in a fiscally responsible manner, as well as a commitment to build back the services that everyday Illinoisans rely upon. This monumental development from Moody's Investor Service recognizes the depth of our efforts to reverse the damage of the past. With this ratings upgrade, Illinois is poised to save millions of taxpayer dollars. After weathering a once-in-a-generation financial storm caused by COVID-19 and the pandemic, the people of Illinois deserve some good news that's in part due to their incredible resilience and determination. Today, on the precipice of the new fiscal year 2022, Illinois is being praised for our fiscal stability and our responsible governance. It's an achievement that could only happen because a coalition of public servants across the state rolled up their sleeves and got to work turning this ship around on behalf of the people that we serve. Let me especially recognize House Speaker Chris Welch and Senate President Don Harmon, as well as budget leaders Greg Harris in the House and L.G. Sims in the Senate, and the partnership of our hardworking constitutional officers, Comptroller Susana Mendoza and Treasurer Michael Frerichs. And I also want to take a moment to thank the unsung champions in my own administration who work behind the scenes all hours of the day and night to improve our finances. Alexis Sturm, who is with me today, is the backbone of our Office of Budget and Management, beloved by her staff, available at any moment to take a call, answer a question, or brainstorm about potential solutions, and knows all the numbers like an encyclopedia. You are truly an invaluable asset to this state, and as someone who never takes any credit for the work that you do, I want to stand here at the podium and say that our director of the Office of Management and Budget is truly a hero for the taxpayers of the state of Illinois. Paul Chatalis, who is our director of capital markets, has been in constant contact with the rating agencies, showing them the improvements that we've made, briefing them on our plans, and working with our entire financial team to hold the line. He goes out into the market and makes sure that Illinois gets the best deal that it can in the bond markets. Last week, I sang the praises of Deputy Governor Dan Hines, but suffice to say that his leadership and the leadership of his team has been tremendous. His counsel to me over the past 2.5 years has been essential to our achieving this upgrade. He will leave office having done what our greatest public servants do. He quietly helped achieve real progress for our state while never asking for any fanfare. Together, the executive branch and the General Assembly has responsibly managed our state's spending, reduced our debt, paid our bills on time, and made structural fixes to our fiscal house. And while our journey to solve all of Illinois' fiscal challenges continues, Today's news proves that when it comes to positive change in Illinois, we are well on our way. After the most difficult year in memory, Illinois is making a major comeback. Today we celebrate, and tomorrow we get back to work, shaping the prosperous and inclusive future that our residents deserve. And with that, I'd be happy to take questions from members of the media. I am so pleased that we were able to make the progress that we made this year. What I told you about the progressive income tax, the fair tax, was that we need to overcome the structural deficit of the state. We haven't fully overcome that. That structural deficit is still there. We have to work at it year in and year out. The fair tax would have allowed us to overcome it immediately. But now what we're doing is making structural changes that are eating away at that structural deficit. The example this year was that there's corporate welfare the state has been giving away for many years that we cut. And as a result, $655 million of structural deficit done away with.
Would this have happened without the aid from Congress? Isn't some of this?
No, the aid from Congress was not used to balance the budget in 2022. That's a fallacy. Whoever's saying that has got it wrong. The truth is that we had both increased revenue from economic activity in the state that we didn't expect. I think nobody expected the kind of upsurge of economic activity that we had. That's part of it. And the other is we held the line on spending. That's hugely important. So basically, mostly flat spending across state government other than education, vital social services.
Governor, this is just
Yeah.
one of the three ratings agencies.
It is.
The other two still have a notch above speculative grade, junk status. How is this not going from horrible to not great?
Well, you are a pessimist at heart, I can see. We actually had, as you know, we moved up 2 notches in the outlook from the other agency, Fitch, just a week ago. That's moving from a negative outlook past neutral to a positive outlook. That's half a notch or a third of a notch below getting a full ratings upgrade. We're certainly shooting for that. We'll keep going, making progress. We haven't heard from the other rating agency. But what I want you to know is achieving a ratings upgrade for the first time, in this case for Moody's, the first time in 23 years. And that's something that we should all pay attention to. It's a huge note of progress for our state, and I'm very proud of it.
This is going to save taxpayers and borrowing costs, but there's other legacy debt that all rating agencies recognize, and that's the pension debt. That's going to continue to cost taxpayers more and more. What can you do to help curb those costs?
Well, the first thing is we got to pay the debts that we owe. We've got to make sure that we pay the pension payments that are required of us every year, which we have done, I have done year in and year out.
But they're not actually.
Let me call on Peter, who is next, and then I'll get to you. Yeah. Well, under the traditional method of calculating this, we're talking about a net pension liability of about $140 billion. That is certainly something that we need to continue to work on. As you know, from the beginning when I took office, we put forward a variety of methods for us to begin to deal with that. One of those has been a pension buyout program that has been successful. And so we're going to continue to work on that to make sure that we expand that and offer buyouts to everybody who's in the retirement system that may want one.
You mentioned the pension payments that are required, but those are consistently found to be short of what actuaries would say is necessary payment to balance that unfunded liability increasing each year. So how do you make more progress, how do you sustain this progress without going above and beyond the statutory?
Well, I think once again, an IPI right-wing talking point is that the course that this state was set on is to 90% funding. People want to recalculate and say, well, if we paid it all off, what would that number be? We have a statutory requirement as a result of what's called the Edgar ramp back in 1995. We've been paying that every single year in order to get to that 90% mark. By the way, as I've often said, as you know, that Edgar ramp goes to 2045. Imagine what it would be like to be the General Assembly or the governor in 2046, when instead of having to pay $10 billion, $9.5, $10 billion as we do today, and in a few years that's going to go up. Imagine in 2046 that number is going to be about $1.5 billion. So wouldn't you like to be in the General Assembly or be governor in 2046 when we will have funded our pensions at 90%?
There's actually a lot of goods in Illinois and not so much services. Majority of their areas identified that as a possible reason for more of the revenues that we saw that could have come into the state, help the situation here. Moving forward, would you like to see that balance out, or Illinois capture some revenue from the services side of the economy?
Well, I think what we're doing today is recognizing that there are two things going on. The General Assembly and the governor are working together to make sure that we're keeping our spending at a reasonable level and at the same time enhancing revenue wherever we can without raising taxes. We did not raise taxes in order for us to balance this budget, and we're nevertheless seeing a tremendous balanced budget this year, and I hope that we'll be able to do that for years to come. You know, the consideration of other revenue items that you're suggesting is not something that's on the table.
Off topic, but before that, still on topic, ratings agencies like new revenue, just to be able to pay those bonds back.
They do.
You said, and others have said, that there's no tax increases. Business groups say that they're going to be paying more in taxes because loopholes closed. How do you square that up?
Well, those are tax expenditures that we cut. Those are corporate welfare, corporate loophole items that were cut. There's $655 million of it. Think about how well large corporations did during the pandemic. While average families in Illinois suffered, while people who are most vulnerable suffered, large corporations did quite well. So they can afford to pay this. It's a reasonable thing for us to do, and it's a way for us to protect working families across the state from any kind of tax increase.
Somebody talk about trends like the credit ratings, interest rates, and what are we talking about here? Basis points, 2 basis points.
Well, it depends, as you know, on what the overall interest rates are in the country. But I'd be happy to, Alexis, do you want to just at least give a number, if you don't mind? She wasn't prepared to speak, but I want to make sure, since she deals with our bonds on a regular basis, she might be able to answer better than I would.
Yeah, so normally a rating difference is about 10 basis points. In Illinois, it's going to look a little bit different because the market will trade a little bit differently for us. So we'll be watching that to try to see some movement in there. But that's kind of the rule of thumb, is about 10 basis points.
Can I just also point out, I think it's worth pointing out that the bond market trades typically ahead of credit rating agencies. So our bonds actually were trading at a kind of higher level, as if the rating had already changed, because people were looking at what we were doing and on their own rating our bonds, the investors themselves. And so it's very important that the credit rating agencies recognize the work that we've done, but the markets themselves had already begun to adjust.
We have time for one more question. Yeah, we have time for one.
When's the next time the state plans to go in?
I don't know. Do you know, Alexis?
We don't have it scheduled right
kind of
now.
an irregular schedule, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have it scheduled right now, but as you know, we're in the middle of Rebuild Illinois, the capital program. So we would expect to go into the market this fall sometime.
And you saw the other bonds that we announced as well. The bond ratings on those also were improved. Oh, it's at least tens of millions of dollars, there's no doubt.
Greg, with the last question.
Off topic, schools are asking for more guidance from ISB about
Yeah.
getting things back in track. Some of the things they brought up are social distancing requirements.
That's right.
Yeah, they have to do full, 100% of back in session. They have questions about remote learning,
Yeah.
what that's going to look like. Apparently there's a difference between remote learning and students are at home just automatically, traditionally outside of COVID. What's going to happen? We've got schools here in Springfield that
Yeah.
start July 22nd.
Yeah.
That's less than 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They want some certainty.
I know they do, and throughout this pandemic, as all of you know, the COVID-19 has created uncertainty for all of us. Unfortunately, even as we have so much improvement across the state moving into phase 5, we have a lot of children who are unvaccinated because there is no vaccine for them. We also have a lot of people who are unvaccinated still, even though they can get vaccinated. We want both of those to change. We can't do anything about the young children who don't have a vaccine available. But what I can tell you is that we're in discussion with the CDC. The CDC has said that they are going to put out some guidance that will be helpful for schools all across the nation. And so we're going to make sure that we're listening to that guidance. We also have our own opinions about it, but we want to make sure that we're working with the best experts in the country to give the guidance to the schools that they're looking for. But I completely understand why schools will want to, reduce the amount of social distancing. We want every kid to go back to school. There's no doubt about it. And so we'll provide guidance as soon as we have all the available information we can give you. There will not be complete certainty no matter what we do, because COVID is not over yet. Say again. Soon, as I told you a week or two ago when somebody asked this question. Yeah. Well, yeah. The answer is very soon. We're opening our